You're listening to Speak, Lord, and I'm Ryan Rogers. I do this podcast because I love to hear God speak through the words of the Bible, and I want to share that with you. If you could ask for anything and get it, what would you ask for? That's a big question, but it's not entirely hypothetical. God tells us to ask of Him. He says, ask, and it will be given to you. Do you need something? Have you tried asking God for it? How do you feel about asking God for things? Do you feel greedy? Like there's a limit to how much God is willing to give, and you need to be careful about which things you actually ask Him for? Do you feel that way? Or maybe you question if it really works. Does it really do anything? I don't understand all this, but I believe that the things I need most are the things that only God can give. And I believe that He wants us to ask for them. So I'm encouraging us to ask of God. There's this story of King Solomon asking for wisdom. It's found in 1 Kings chapter 3. And I remember talking about this story recently. I might have even done a Speak Lord episode on it, but I read it recently and it spoke to me again. So I'm going to share about it again. At the time that Solomon asked God for wisdom, he was set up pretty well. Chapter 2 says that his throne was established before the Lord forever. And the final words of the chapter say, so the kingdom was established in the hand of Solomon. Then chapter 3 begins by telling of Solomon's marriage to Pharaoh's daughter as an alliance. So politically, Solomon was set up really well. And he was also strong in his connection with God. Verse 3 says, Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of David his father. Only he sacrificed and made offerings at the high places. So this is the one problem. Solomon made offerings at the high places. But then notice what God does. This is verse 4 and 5. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. Solomon used to offer 1,000 burnt offerings on the altar. At Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, ask what I shall give you. God appears to Solomon with this great invitation for Solomon to ask of him. Did you notice that he appeared to him at Gibeon, the great high place? This was the one thing not good about Solomon's connection with God, and that's where God shows up. God could have abandoned him to this sinful practice. Instead, that's right where he went. God is so cool. He goes to Solomon's worst place and invites Solomon to ask of him. And this should give us so much hope. If we ever question God's desire to give good things to us, remember that He showed up at the high place. So if you're in a place that's not really that good spiritually, you might ask God for things, but you're disconnected and you're not very proud of where God would find you. Remember that God showed up at the high place. And no matter where you are right now, His invitation comes to you. Ask of me. So Solomon asked, and he asked for wisdom. He said, give your servant therefore an understanding mind to govern your people, that I may discern between good and evil. For who is able to govern this, your great people? And God was a huge fan of that request. We read that it pleased the Lord that Solomon had asked for this. And God said to him, because you have asked for this, and have not asked for yourself long life or riches or the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself understanding to discern what is right, behold, I now do according to your word. Behold, I give you a wise and discerning mind, so that none like you has been before, and none like you shall arise after you. I give you also what you have not asked for, both riches and honor, so that no other king shall compare with you all your days. God wants us to ask of Him. Specifically, He promises in the book of James that if anyone lacks wisdom and he asks God for it, that He will get it. But He also wants us to ask for our other needs. What do you need? Do you need courage or peace or purity? Maybe you could begin by spending some time in prayer, asking God to align your heart with His so that your request would be one that pleases Him. And then when you think you know what you need, what God could give you, ask Him and trust that God is able to give and that He actually wants to. What will you ask of God? How is God speaking to you? Speak, Lord. Your servant is listening. You can find more of Speak, Lord by searching for Palmer SDA Church wherever you get podcasts and at PastorRyanRogers.com.